Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how
He's alive!
Welcome to where the weird ones are.
Every time I speak, I want the truth to come out.
Powerful figures in Hollywood as well as powerful politicians who are in fact not human. They're reptiles or they're lizards or perhaps extraterrestrials.
I don't think it is a human. I think it's a Sasquatch.
Go ahead and run. Run home and cry to mama.
Let's get weird.
What's up, you fucking weirdos? Welcome to another episode of Where the Weird Ones Are. My name is Kevin, but you probably already knew that, and if you didn't, now you do. Today's episode is with Alex Shae. First of all, she's an amazing human being, and I love her to death. I consider her a very close friend at this point. Um, Conversations with her have been amazing. Um, since we linked up for the first episode, which was a few episodes back now, we talk about her photography, some underground tunnel mining, or and some flying creatures she caught on camera. So if you haven't listened to that one, you should definitely check it out. Um, but this one was amazing. We touch on some of her experiences as a child, and we get a little, we hear a little bit about her mother and her family life. And there's something creepy about the fucking basement. Um, and an octopus type UFO thing, imaging. And then we get into some mental health stuff, which is very important. I think, health in general, whether it's physical, spiritual, or mental, I think it's all important. So if you're lacking in one of those, it can throw off the other two. So yeah, just, you know, all you got to do is exercise, eat right, and think right. That sounds a lot. It's easier said than done. So trust me, I know, I'm not stupid. And some things I'm stupid. I'm just not stupid all the time. I may be stupid, but I'm not dumb. You know, something like that. Um, but yeah, quick shout out to the sponsor, Flavors of the Forest. Definitely go check them out. This raw garlic dust, Bigfoot's breath. Highly recommend it. Very potent, very tasty. A lot better than any of the garlic powders that you're gonna get at the store. I can tell you that right now. So go check them out, flavorsforest.com/weird. That's where you can get yourself some. They also have ginger, lion's mane, and spicy garlic. So check them out. You won't be disappointed, I promise. I put it on everything, like my scrambled eggs and all that shit, as I'm sure you're accustomed to hearing me say by now. So, anywho, I will be at Cryptid Halloween 3 in October, October 26th to be exact. That's in West Virginia. So definitely if you're in the West Virginia area, love to see you. I'll have t-shirts, stickers, some hot sauce, and I will be speaking. So that shall be fun. It should be a good time. So looking forward to that. Braden's coming with me, so that'll be fun. Um, and if you are, you know, feeling any type of distressed, um, please dial 988 here in the US. That is a suicide prevention hotline. All I gotta say is, eh, there's light at the end of the tunnel. You may not be able to see it now, but stick around for a while and you'll find it. I know it's so hard to, treat ourselves right. It's so hard to speak to ourselves the way that we speak to other people sometimes. It's hard to put ourselves first. It's hard to um, do things in a, you know, I don't know. It's okay to be selfish sometimes. Like there's a healthy way to be selfish. Like, y- you know, um, take care of your feelings, take care of your emotions. Don't allow yourself to react to stupid shit. Um, we all experience depression. It's how we come out of the depression is what makes us yeah, great. God made everything on this earth, and he took a good look, and he was like, you know what? This earth needs a you, and that's you that I'm talking to. So I'm happy you exist. I'm happy you're here. Um, I'm happy you're listening. If you are, if you're not, then you're not, and I'm just talking to the people that are listening. uh, but yeah, I'm happy you exist. I'm happy you're here. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. So, if you like today's episode, or you like any of the other episodes, or whatever, please like, follow, share, subscribe, leave a rating and a review. I would greatly appreciate it. It would mean the absolute world to me, especially getting a reviews. I love reading reviews. I don't have a lot, but I have a few. So, um, but yeah, if your catcher doesn't allow a review, you can leave a review on the website on the contact page there. And the website is where the weird ones are podcast.com. And there you can get the hot sauce, you can get the coffee, and you can get some merch. So if you want a t-shirt, you want some coffee, stickers, a coffee mug, and some hot sauce, it's all there, man. It's all there. You can see the podcast of the month, you can see the book of the month, and yeah, and actually Alex is featured on the homepage just because I love her photography so much, and I think if you haven't seen it, you should go check it out. So her Instagram is linked to the button there. So um yeah, it was an amazing conversation. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. So I hope you guys do too. But anywho, that's for you, Veronica. Let's get into it, shall we?
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Weird. Get weird.
Deplorable Janet here from the Deplorable Nation podcast. You are listening to Where the Weird Ones Are with the amazing Kevin. So stay tuned in for every show for all the weird and wonderful.
Well, howdy do, neighbors. Welcome to another episode. Alex, your hair looks amazing. Very straight and very thick. I love it.
You.
You're welcome. Alex Shae, everybody.
Kevin, everybody.
No. So Alex, how the fuck are you, dude?
I'm pretty fucking good. How are you?
Great. I'm pretty fucking fantastic as well. Um, it's been a little bit since we been on a, well, actually, what was it, like 2 weeks ago? You were on Conspiracy Tuesday, but it's been a little bit since we were one-on-one. So, Alex is the lady that was on a few episodes ago with the pictures of the flying creature. Um, it looks like a pterodactyl, but it could be a butterfly. You know, who knows?
Someone also said a dragonfly. So very interesting. But
Hmm.
I take what they're like saying into consideration about how I didn't see it with my eye, which I completely understand. And I
Yep.
talked about this before, but I could be open to that, like that maybe it's a bug, but all the breakdowns I've done of the video and just my personal opinion, I don't think that it's a bug, but maybe it could be. But I also think that it's not like super huge and ginormous like the other wing creature that I caught. Now that
Mm,
one I know for sure is not a bug. And so
yes.
you guys can tell me all day it's a bug, but that thing is terrifying. And I think I talked about this before on your podcast, but it was more scary than the bat looking one, I think. So just because it was
Yeah.
so big, like the wings were
Yes.
just enormous and it was but I also didn't see that one with my eyes. So they're not bugs. They're something. We obviously can see that it is something. Um, yeah, that's been interesting because I don't know. I just keep trying to put it out there for people to tell me what they think it could be because nobody really knows and I don't know
Right.
and I'm not saying that it is anything, or not, but I think it's a mystery and I like a good mystery, so
Mm, I love mysteries. You know what? You should come on a story time episode because I could tell you a mystery story.
I like that. And one of my favorite shows growing up was Are You Afraid of the Dark? So
Mine too.
that's my vibe. Me and my son watched that last night. He watched it for the first time and he was now I'm watching it as an adult. I'm not even realizing how like super deep. Like these episodes, if
Yeah.
you're an adult now and you used to watch that as a kid, like I used to watch that in my mom's basement and be like terrified of the intro, but just so captivated by the kids and it was so relatable. And like now I'm looking back, I'm like, there was so many deep like messages. Like the chameleon
Mm-hmm.
episode, it
Mm-hmm.
was in my eyes like showing people reptilians are out there and they can shapeshift into people and just I thought it was so funny. That's the one we watched last night, and then we watched the doll maker, and so I love that type of campfire story. So yeah, I'd love to come on and do that.
Yeah. Um, that'd be great. I'd love to have you. The more I get to talk to you, the more I like it. I don't know what it is, just I really enjoy talking to you. So, um, the more I get to do that, the better that is.
I feel the same, and I've actually got to listen to like a few of your episodes, but just the other day I listened to the episode that you were on with the Let's Talk About podcast.
Yeah.
And I love that. That was such a good episode. I really
Oh,
enjoyed
thanks.
being on his podcast. So it was cool listening to your episode. And I didn't even know that you did an episode with him. And then we did an episode like a week later. So they
Yeah,
were
I didn't
super
know that you
nice.
did an episode with them either. But yeah, well, because I don't know, I haven't been able to listen to yours yet. But did you
I
do it
think
with
it
both
comes out
Billy and
soon.
Liam? Oh, it hasn't come out yet.
Yeah, it hasn't come out yet. I think it comes because they do them on Sundays. And he showed
Okay.
me the schedule, but yours was like
And mine just came out, right?
correct.
This
Yeah. So
Sunday.
mine
Oh,
should be
okay.
coming out soon. I'm not 100. It's like maybe October 4th, possibly. But yeah.
Yeah.
But I
We got
love listening to your episode with the mushroom people. Like that was super like that's kind of like the alien thing that I'm going to tell you today. It's like one of those things where it's like I don't 100% know what was happening, but I know I was conscious and awake when I was having these interactions and it
Yeah.
just I want to do more hypnotherapy so that I can maybe like help with that. But then I'm realizing that you did that and found out all that stuff. And then I thought, oh, wow, that could be a can of
Yeah.
worms that's like pretty crazy.
It could be. It can. It can either give you some answers or it could break your psyche, really, to be honest with you. Especially if you know that there's some kind of occurrence like that in there, but you're not too sure.
Yeah.
Um, you
That's
know,
kind of how she explained it. She said it could actually get really, not
mm,
necessarily that you would like go backwards in like therapy, but she's like you could have some like really like raw stuff come out. Like I already know about
yeah,
a lot of my trauma as a child, but I feel like that could also be like come up too. So she did warn me about that, like that there would be times, you know, that it could get like that if I got
yeah,
to a certain point.
yeah, yeah. That's what she told the therapist that did mine too. She's like, before we do this, like there's can be things that can reopen some wounds and stuff like that. And I was like, well, that's the whole point of process of healing. Like I just
That's
want to
why I was
know
there.
the gaps, and stuff like that. And she's like, I understand. And she's like, I'm not trying to talk you out of it or anything. She's just like, but sometimes, it. She's like, I just want you to be aware that not that you're gonna like yours said, like not that you're gonna go backwards, but like it could, shift your worldview and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So, um, but yeah, like so that I got that out of that again. Like I don't know if it's true. Like because I told her she knows the story and stuff like that, and she's just like, she's like, I'm not saying it didn't happen. She goes, it could have been a dream that you're remembering. It could be, something that you saw on TV. It could have been a story that you had in your head that you wanted to tell, or something like that. She goes, but she's like, I'm also not discounting it as not being real. She
Right.
goes, it's up for you to interpret, so I mean, I remember everything around it. That's the best that I could do, and that's what I say. That's what I tell everybody. And when I did my speech a couple weeks ago at Cryptid Fest, I told everybody I was like, maybe, I was like I could be just a crazy person. I was like, or this could be real, or it's a story that my brain made up. Either way, it's still interesting. And either
It's a
way,
yeah, it's a part
I
of your
don't wear glasses
experience.
anymore, regardless. Like whether it happened or not, I don't wear glasses after the day my sister stepped on on my glasses was the last day I ever wore glasses.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, it is crazy.
No, I'm glad that
I
you
still
share
feel
that.
crazy,
Well,
you
I'm
know?
glad that you shared that though, because that helps other people. Because that's very similar to mine. Like I can kind of tell you. So when I was a kid and I lived with my stepdad and my mom, they used to fight a lot, like a lot. And I was thinking about this all day about talking about this and like what I was gonna say. And at one point, I remember I was like believing in God and I was asking God to like make my parents stop fighting. Like, please, whatever you do, just like please make my parents stop fighting. And I'm probably
Mhm.
like 8 at this point. Um and I'm very alone because I can tell there's a lot of turmoil with them. But every night outside my window, that's why I don't think it was a dream because it would happen multiple nights in a row. We lived on this cul-de-sac, and above the cul-de-sac behind us was all this wooded area. And developers came in at one point and like left a bunch of bulldozers and like big like wooden wheels with like stuff that they were maybe trying to lay in the ground, but for whatever reason they just like abandoned it. And so we would go up there and play as kids. There was like a tree house out there, but there was wooded area behind, right directly behind where we lived, up on this hill. And what I would see every night was this, what I described. And sometimes people say like how you see things is how your perception is with like things that you see in like movies and stuff like that. So like people will be like, okay, well that's how I would describe it because that's what I saw like on a TV. So how I would describe this little being, it looked like a child, but it was this little gray, like alien type looking thing. I don't know how to explain it, but he would always be like in the shadows of my neighbor's front porch. And I would remember I would move and it would almost seem like it would move with me. And then, we would just kind of stare at each other. And at one point I thought, this is so weird. Like, why is there this little alien like outside of my house? And I remember thinking, okay, maybe it could be a dream. But then I remember being at the window because I would get grounded a lot and I would always see the kids playing outside. And so that was just like a memory that I knew about, that like I knew in my head, like I remember being at the windowsill and like interacting with this thing, but it never would get closer. It would never run away. It was just always just like there at nighttime. And it almost seemed like it was like watching us. I don't know how to describe it, but what the weird thing is I had this neighbor who I thought was an alien, and I laugh about it now because I really did think she was an alien. She just was just different, and I don't know how to describe it, but she didn't really get along with a lot of the kids on our cul-de-sac. And each house, there was a lot of houses on this cul-de-sac. And when I tell you there's like 20 kids in this cul-de-sac every night on
Oh.
bicycles playing basketball, and she was the only friend that was kind of like an oddball out. And I was friends with her because she was actually in my grade.
Mhm.
And I just remember she got a bunny for a pet. And her parents kept this bunny in this dark room that had nothing else in it but a bunny cage in the basement. And one time she took me down there to go see the bunny, and she loved this bunny. Oh my gosh, she was obsessed with this bunny. She was so happy that her parents actually let her get a pet, and it was a bunny. Well, when we went down there to go interact with this pet, it actually bit her. The bunny bit her, and she was so upset. She was so distraught. It bit her. But in my head, I'm thinking, you guys just lock it in a dark room downstairs, and nobody interacts with this thing. So, it's going to be upset that, doesn't have anybody to interact with. So
Yeah.
after a while, I mean, I hung out with her. I remember going on trips with her to places with her mom. And then when she moved away, I had this dream, this really funny dream, that her and her parents were in the window of her house, and it was all blue, and it was almost like a fountain of like water shooting out. And the best way I could describe what she looked like was, there's these little like mermaid things that you can grow like from like the 80s, and I don't know what they're called, but they're like these little fish mermaid people, and they have like crown heads. But you would put them in a fish tank, these little, like, I don't want to say seeds, but you would put them in there and they would grow. And that's exactly what she looked like in the dream. And she's like
The sea
waving goodbye to
monkeys?
me. It was almost like she was saying, like, you were right, we were aliens. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I had all these like weird alien like experiences in this house. And then the part that really gets me is like, I would think all of this was like funny and just a dream. But I specifically remember my mom and my stepdad arguing one night, and they were really upset because my mom had had a hysterectomy, and one day they woke up and there was blood in their bed and their sheets, and they couldn't tell where the blood was coming from. Like, they had no idea where it
Oh,
had come from. And
snaps.
I just remember my mom saying, but Brian, I had a hysterectomy, like there's no way that that amount of blood could have been in the bed without us having some type of injury that could have caused that. And I just remember her being so upset about it. She actually told me about it years later. And then when I asked her about it, I don't know, maybe a couple years ago, she completely forgot about it. She's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And I was
Yeah.
like, you really don't remember that? And she's like, no, I don't remember that. And when I think about it, I kind of got upset because I was like, surely she would have remembered that. Like, that was pretty like traumatic, you know? And
Yeah.
then me and her had an experience where me and her husband were out on their back porch. And where my mom lives in Grand Valley, she didn't always live there. I lived in that town my whole life, where Monkey Mountain is at. And where she lives at now in Grand Valley, she's lived there for like 10 plus years. Super creepy house. I'm pretty sure it's haunted, but she hates when I talk about that. So it was like bad juju about the family that lived before her, but I try not to frequent there very often because there's something in that darn basement. So, anyways, we're on the back porch, and right over Monkey Mountain, we can see it because it's like in the distance, but you can see it from my mom's back porch. Well, we're standing out there, and all of a sudden we're looking up, and my mom goes, oh my gosh, do you see that? And I was like, what the heck? And we look up, and there's this, the best way I can describe it, it looked like an octopus with a like jellyfish, and it was like a radiating, like, almost looked like particles of like water light. I don't know how to describe it, but it looked like it was coming at us, but then it looked like it was going away, and it was like changing shapes. And I guess an octopus would probably have been the best way to describe it, but there's this light in the sky, and I mean, I don't know how long we stood there, but I once think to pull out my phone. I was so mesmerized. I was trying to figure out, what is this, and why is it like in this, in the sky, and we're just like all in awe. And then all of a sudden it just kind of like dissipates, and we're like, okay, and then it was over, and we just kind of were like, well, that was like really strange. And I told my mom, I was like, no, that was something. Well, a week goes by, I'm at work, and my mom messages me, and she's like, hey, do you remember that thing we saw in the sky? And I was like, oh my God, I forgot about that. And I was like, if you wouldn't have said anything, I think I would have forgot like all about it. And she's like, well,
Hmm.
I thought it was really strange. And so she's like, I looked it up, Alex, and the news is trying to tell us that it was the International Space Station and that we could just see it from space. And I was like, you're kidding me. I was like, that was not the International Space Station, mother. You know that. And she was like, oh no, I know. She's like, I just wanted you to know, because she knows I'm into all this weird stuff. But I was like, dude, I did forget about that. And so it was almost like, not that I was like Men in Black and they came and they zapped me, but it was just like my brain just literally like maybe just couldn't process that it was like a reality. And so I just was like, nope, that has to go. Like, don't remember that, because that was really weird. So I've had other experiences like that. Like, me and my son have seen what we think was a craft that was hovering over a person's house out there on the back roads. I always am looking in the sky, and this was before I found the winged creatures, but me and Xavier we drive on the back roads to go to my mom's, and this is when we were actually living there. Um, it was funny because he's like, we need to lock the doors. And I'm like, if it's aliens, buddy, they're going to come through whether the doors are locked or not.
Yeah.
But we were on this back road, and I see this thing hovering over this person's house, and it had lights on it. And it looked like what I would say like a traditional type UFO type craft. It was like a saucer type thing. And it was hovering over this person's house. Well, right past their house was a graveyard. And I was like, dude, I got to turn around in that graveyard, because like I can probably get a video of that. So within like, I would say less than 60 seconds, I go down, turn around, and I'm going to just park right there where the house was. That's like catty corner to this graveyard. No, this thing that we saw all the way across this field, like miles away, miles away. And we can still see it. And Xavier looked at me and he goes, drone or not drone, there's no way that that thing could have flown that far away from where we were just at. Because we could see it when we were driving. We're right next to this house, and we could just see it out the window. And I kept going, what is that? That's huge. What is over that person's house? And then I was like, dude, that's why I was like, I gotta turn around. Like, that was something weird. And like I said, it was so far away that I was like, there's no way that I could have ever gotten a video of that. It was just basically we could see the lights that it had, whether that was a UFO or like a government type craft or whatever. It was extremely fast. That's all I know. And we thought
Wow.
that was strange. Xavier and I have also seen like 3 white orbs coming out of the moon, and that was in broad daylight. When the moon
Coming
was
out
out
of the
during the
moon?
daytime, we saw, and I was driving, so I couldn't record anything, but Xavier goes, oh, because I saw an orange one time, but we think it was like Elon Musk had some stuff that was like re-entering the atmosphere. And so some guy was like, you should look up if like they have any like space stuff that's re-entering the atmosphere, because it was this really weird red, it looked like a red comet was just like almost like steady, and we were at the stoplight and I'm recording it, and it didn't move, but it kind of kept getting like longer. I don't know how to describe it, but I was always kind of looking for UFO stuff in the sky anyways, and so I thought that was interesting. But when we saw the moon thing, Xavier was like, okay, now I see what you're talking about. I'm like, dude, I've known that people have talked about stuff coming out of the moon, but it was just a deliberate, it was just like doop, and then it was like doop doop. And I was like, tell me you saw that. And he was like, dude, I did. I was like, okay, that was cool. I was like, I'm driving. I wish I could record right now, but I can't. I think I tried to get him to do it while we were driving. But yeah, I was trying to think of the other times, which I've heard before that like something about when you're with like family or something like that, that like you're more likely to see these things or something. Like, I don't want to say it's like bloodline type stuff, but like people who are sensitive, usually their family members are sensitive and can also see what they're seeing at the same time. There's also family members who can't, like say married couples who are like viewing something that's maybe out of it. That like if you were maybe like say a sibling or a parent, they might have a better connection of seeing what's in front of them. Does that make sense? I don't know how to
Yes.
explain that the best way,
Yeah,
but
that makes
because
sense.
I've never seen anything with somebody that wasn't like blood related to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I guess Rick was with us, my mom's husband, but I was with my mom, so that was, and the fact that Rick saw, I was like, okay, that's cool, because he's heard a like a EVP in the basement, and when he heard that, and he's like a non-believer, and he was like, I know you heard that, and I'm just standing there like, I didn't hear a darn thing. Like I was just trying to be, because he knows that, and I just want to be like, this is your house, dude. This is your ghost. You need to deal with it, not me. But yeah,
I think some of my favorite stories are come from like non-believers and skeptics because um it makes it more interesting because they still like try to cling to like the non-belief side, but they're
yeah.
telling this wild story and it's just like, wait a second, like this happened and you're saying that you still don't believe, like, but it's
My mom just
such
calls it weird things. Like she went on vacation with her husband recently, and they took their dog with them, and she goes, "Oh, Alex, you would have just loved this place." And I was like, "Oh yeah." She's like, "In the middle of nowhere, big lake, super creepy hotel." And I was like, "Oh yeah, sounds right up my alley." And she's like, "But I got to tell you this story." She's like, I just don't know what to think of it. I just don't know how to explain it." And I'm like, "Okay, well, what happened?" So we were in the hotel, and she said, and Lucy had her ball, and she said, and the ball just went missing. And she was like, when we tore that place apart, she's like, we looked in the trash can, we looked under the beds, she said, we looked in places, Alex, that it wouldn't have been, but we just looked to look. And she said, the whole time we're there, Lucy's ball's gone, right? And I'm like, okay. I'm like, get on with it. What's going to happen? And she's like, and then we go to leave. And she goes, and guess where the ball was, Alex? And I was like, let me guess. And she's like, it was right in front of the door. It's like, oh my gosh. She was like, we just left. And she's like, I just don't know what to think about that. And I was like, I'll tell you what happened. It went in a portal, and then it got sucked back, and it thought it was funny.
that's
That's
fucking
what
awesome.
happened.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. So she's like totally, like I said, totally a non-believer, and I believe that her house has some stuff. Like the people who lived in the house before, it was like repossessed, like by whoever,
Yeah.
and they had to gut out the entire house because it was so bad. I mean, extremely bad. Like there was animal neglect and probably abuse in the basement, like tremendously.
Oh
Like when the
boy.
basement was gutted out, it was nothing but the concrete floor. And when we moved in, my mom's like, we have to like clean the basement. She's like, it's so bad. Eventually she ended up replacing the wood that was at the base of the stairs because so many dogs had like urinated on that part just sitting at the bottom of those stairs, and then they also all over the floor. So like we had to pull a hose through, scrub it with like chemicals, because I was going to live down there, actually stay down there when it wasn't even finished, before it got finished. And now
Mhm.
it's completely, like my mom's completely redone this house, but they really neglected the house. The mother, she died of cancer in the bedroom that I have sleep paralysis in, and the only place I've ever had sleep paralysis in is at my mom's house. I've never had sleep paralysis anywhere else. And then when I found out that the lady died in the room that I had the most severe sleep paralysis moments, I was like, oh shit. Like that makes all, and my mom's like, oh no, she died peacefully with her family surrounding her. And I'm like, okay. Like if I told you what happened in that bedroom, you'd think twice, because it was like not an enjoyable time, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. I've
It's
had
like I
sleep
have a thing, I
paralysis
don't
a
sleep
few
at my mom's
times.
house anymore. Oh,
Yeah.
what'd you say?
Yeah. No, I was just saying I've had sleep paralysis a few times, which actually the last time I had it is in the bedroom that I'm in now, which used to be this studio. It used to be my bedroom. Well, at first, when we moved in, it was my son's room, and then it was my room because my bedroom was bigger than my son's, and I was like, you know what? Why do I need a bigger bedroom than him? Like, he plays video games and he does Legos and stuff like that in his room, and he barely has this space. And I'm like, all I do is sleep in my bedroom.
Right.
So like all I need is my bed. Like that's it. So that's, we switched rooms and then I decided to put my bed downstairs because I was like which was the dining room, which was where my original studio was. And I had this sleep paralysis before I decided to do that. I had this sleep paralysis thing where it was like I don't know what to call it or what it is or why it was, which the whys
Right.
are probably never going to be answered to any of this shit. So, but it was like a full figured woman, shadow figure. I don't know if you heard me tell this story yet on anything, but it
I don't
was
think I
like
have. You should tell me because then I'll tell you about mine. Because mine's a
okay.
man.
All right. Yeah. So like, so I just wake up to my name being called. It was just like Kevin, and I just like kind of like pick up my head. All I could move was my neck and my eyes in this moment. And I kind of like pick up my head. I'm sprawled out like a starfish too. For all the listeners that know, I my ex um was a piece of work. But I used to sleep like a vampire when we were together because I didn't want to disturb her. Because if I was the reason that she woke up, it would be the end of the fucking world, you know. So I couldn't make noise, I couldn't move, so I just like
So
laid like a fucking
Nosferatu.
pencil, just like this, and I would hold my shirt too sometimes so that my arms wouldn't like go everywhere. But anyway, so in this moment, I'm just like a starfish, like fucking out like this in my bed. And so I pick my head up, and there's a little bit of light coming from the night light from the bathroom that's downstairs. So it kind of like gives just a tiny bit of light through the hallway coming up the stairs. And I see this shadow figure come into my room. Now, I'm no stranger to shadow people or anything like that. So at first, it wasn't that weird. And then it was, long flowing hair, voluptuous, very curvy outline of a woman. So, like, she was very boisterous in all the right areas. Um, and I was just like, what is happening? And like, and then that was the second thing that I noticed, and then it was like she was like walking like fucking the best way that I could describe it is like C3PO or the nurses from Silent Hill where they're just like
Yeah.
and I was like immediately I start breathing heavy and then my head kind of goes back down and then I'm not moving and all I can move is my eyes. And then I see my phone out of the corner of my left eye and I start wiggling my fingers, just trying to grab a hold of the sheet to pull my hand closer to the phone. And she's coming, and she gets right on the edge of my bed, and I'm just like, and then just right there where it looks like she's about to crawl onto my bed, I grab my phone and I sit up and I light my phone up, and there's nothing there, and my heart was pounding, I was sweating, and I was just like, holy fuck. I was like, what was that? And then, I had to pee. So I had to get up. And then I, started asking questions like, I don't know who you are, what you're doing here, but, you're not welcome here if you mean me any harm or if you're a negative spirit and blah, 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 blah. And then I kind of just like jump out and like give it the air couple karate chops just in case it was hiding around the corner. Because everybody knows that karate chops kills ghosts.
Every time.
So every time. So yeah, that's I've never witnessed it again. But I did put my bedroom back up in that room, so I'm hoping that nothing happens. I mean, the house has been cleansed a few times now. I've talked to Isaac, the Shadow Walker. He's removed something while we were recording a podcast. And then JJ Rose is a sweetheart. She came, she remote viewed my house and took something that was hiding in the corner. So ever since then, I haven't experienced anything. So hopefully it stays that way. I don't want anything like that again. Like the random shadow people that I haven't even seen a shadow person in a while either. Actually, I haven't seen a shadow person since JJ Rose came here remotely. Um, but yeah, it's been everything seems good, and I've been up there for a couple nights now, and nothing's happened. I actually took melatonin last night.
It
Um,
zonked.
yeah, I freaking went right out, and then but yeah, no. So that was that, and I don't know what if it's like a succubus or like if that's what its
That's
intent
kind of what I'll
was.
get into, yeah, because
Yeah,
it's
because sexually nothing happened,
nothing for me either, but I can't
but
say that for somebody else in my
yeah.
family, which is
Oh,
crazy.
okay.
Yeah.
The
So
the outline of this shadow was very appealing though.
that's
Like
very interesting.
the way it looked, I was like, if this was like if I could see like if there was a light and there was an actual person there, this would probably be something that I'd be into. But it was not a person. Whatever the fuck it was nothing. I don't know what the fuck.
But they
But
knew what you liked.
yeah, I guess the fuck. Um,
That's crazy.
so
Yeah,
yeah,
when I was like living at my mom's house, um, and to kind of describe the situation so that it's like more understandable, I had like a twin. So like how you have like a twin bed, but underneath it could be like a rollout bed. Well, this was just like that part of the bed. So it was a twin size bed, but it didn't have any railings or anything like that. And I just had it pushed up against the wall. And when I was sleeping and I woke up, the first thing that I immediately thought was that I was in a car wreck and that I was in a hospital because I was laying on my back. And usually I don't sleep on my back. I'm usually like a side sleeper. So that was like weird to me to wake up and be looking at the ceiling. And all I could see was the ceiling. I couldn't move any part of my body but my eyeballs. And so in my head, I'm like panicking. I'm freaking out. I was like, I'm paralyzed. I'm literally paralyzed. I can't move any part of my body. And that's why I thought I was in a car wreck. I was like, this is crazy. Like I can't even talk. Like I couldn't move. And so I freaked out. And in that moment, and me realizing that like I'm awake and I'm here, but I can't move, I somehow managed to like kick my brain back on some way. And I roll off the bed and I just fall completely on the ground and I wake up, like I jolt myself basically like out of it. And I'd never had that experience before. I didn't know what it was, and that was the first time I'd ever looked into it, like what just happened to me. Like I've had really messed up dreams, dreams that repeat, dreams that I will absolutely like I will never forget that alien dream about that girl. Like no matter what, I will always see her waving at me with her little sea crown on. And now it's funny to think about aliens being in the water and the ocean, and like that's how she presented herself in the dream. It's just kind of weird. So um but so I had that experience, and like I said, I didn't know what it was, but it got me into like looking into what it was. And then I'm like, okay, this is sleep paralysis. And when I'm looking at it, they're like, it's just your brain glitching basically. Is your body's not awake, but your brain's awake, and so this and this and that. And so I'm like trying to rationalize what I'm going through. Like, okay, so this is normal. People have sleep paralysis, whatever. Like it was terrifying, but I just like hope that it didn't happen again. And you like look up like how can I prevent that, and there's not really a guidebook on sleep paralysis. So I had been sleeping in that room, and time goes by and I'm living back at my mom's house again with my kids. And at that point in time, I only had Xavier and he was a baby at that point. So I didn't really think about it as too crazy at that point because, like I said, I looked it up. It looked like something a lot of people have. So, so what? So when I have it again, when I'm living at the house, it's just me and the kids. My mom had found this boyfriend that she had a long time ago, and they hit it off, and that's who she's married to now. Well, they were living together at his house when I was living with her. And so me and the kids stayed there by ourselves. And I feel like whatever was in the house really took advantage of that because I was by myself with the kids. And that usually always seems to be like when things bother me the most. I noticed that when I was living with my ex-husband, when we were living together and we had this problem that I brought this dress in our house and he wasn't like really a believer, but um it would always mess with me and Xavier whenever Adam would leave and not be at the house. And I would always be like, it did it again, like it did something again. And he's like, it's always when I'm gone. And I'm like, I know, and I don't know why they do that, but they do. So I felt like whatever was in this house was taking advantage of me being there. And I would have it would never get close to me, but it would be close to the bed. And once I realized what the shadow man was, I was like, okay, wow, everybody sees this guy. Like this isn't just like me seeing him. He had the old it was like the guy from the Haunting of Hill House, like the round top hat kind of situation with the long coat. And he's just standing, first time I see him, he's just standing in the hallway. And I was so upset that I like knew what happened to me the first time, because then once I became aware of what was happening, then I knew like that I was like alive and that I was okay. But then I was like, what's happening around me? Why, like, why is this happening? So then I start seeing that guy. And he would get close to the bed. I have drawings of it too. I'll have to show you. But then what really messed me up was my 3-year-old. And I've told this story a bunch of times because it's just so crazy that like I was seeing this and my kids didn't know, because I was like, this is just too weird. Like, I don't want to freak them out. But Aria would tell me about this crab man. She called him the crab man that's crawling on the ceiling. And I was like, what? And it's in the same room that the lady died in, the same room that I would see the shadow guy with the sleep paralysis. And I just was like, I could never get over her saying, but you don't see him crawling on the ceiling. And it's just a 3-year-old that's just like telling me what she's seen. She didn't know how to describe it, but she knew what it looked like when we would crab walk on the ground. And so that was her reference. And she would call him the crab man. So that terrified me. I was working at this bar at the time. It's like the biggest dance floor in the Midwest. It was called Whiskey Tangos at the time. And we had a lot of ghost stuff happen there too that I experienced. There's like a lot of deaths on the property and really crazy
Wow.
stories on that one too. But so there's this guy that was working there and someone's like, you need to ask him what to do. Like, you obviously there's a lot going on at your house. Like, I'm like, well, this isn't my house, it's my mom's house. And they're like, well, it sounds like you need to sage the place. And like, you need to go ask him what to do. And so I kind of told him like my situation, what was going on. And he was like, well, take dragon's blood and just like go throughout the house and just try to like do what you can, just like let it know it's not welcome there. And
Mhm.
I didn't know anything that I was, I know nothing about that. I'm obviously going and trying to find help and telling people about my experiences, and they're trying to get me to someone who maybe could try to help me. He didn't really want to help me. He wasn't really kind to me, honestly, but I still was like, I don't know what the hell to do. So it's my last, kind of like my last hope at this point. So like I said, I did sage the house. I even went in the basement, but it just never seemed to like it seemed like it was pointless. Like it didn't do anything to help, or it didn't make it worse, but it didn't make it better. So then like a couple years go by, I move out. My brother was living there, and my brother was telling me about when he lived in the basement. And my mom was like, your brother never lived in the basement. And I said, yeah, he did, Mom. He did live in the basement. And he's like, yeah, I did. You don't remember that? And I specifically remember kind of how his room was set up in this room that I always think is like the room that wherever it just like hides out in or something, like that's its room. I don't know how to describe it, but that area seems to be where it like comes from. That's in the basement is where we heard the EVP or whatever. And like we just heard it like outright. We heard it with our own ears. And like I just know we heard a male voice. And I just remember Rick was like, I know you heard that. And I was just like, oh shit, yeah. I know about the guy down here, but I'm not gonna tell you about him. But so my brother tells me he was living down there, and he was like, he's describing to me this thing. And he's telling me, he's like, you know that I have schizophrenia, or that people say I have schizophrenia, and you know that I'm bipolar, manic depressant, autistic. And he's like, and I go to the hospital. And he said, but you're the only person that I feel like will believe me. And I said, okay, well, you can tell me anything, dude. Like, what's going on? And he's like, well, when I was living in mom's basement, he was like, I had this lady that would come and visit me, and she would make me perform stuff with her. And I was like, wait, what? And he was like, yeah. He said it would just be hours. And he was like, and there was nothing I could do about it. And he was like, and I didn't understand what was going on. And I'm like, okay, have you ever heard of a succubus? And he's like, well, what's that? And I'm not trying to say anything bad about my brother, but his education is just a little bit behind everybody else's. So his understanding of things is just a little bit different. So me saying that, he didn't even know what I would, he didn't know that term. He had never heard of that term. And so when I'm telling him, this is something that people experience, and it's not your fault. Like you didn't do anything wrong. And whatever happened to you, like, I'm really sorry that you went through that, and I'm really sorry that mom doesn't believe that you even lived in the basement. She would never believe that this story that you're telling me now. She doesn't even believe that you even spent time in the basement. So I was glad that he reached out to me, and he wants me to start a podcast because he kind of wants to talk about things. I think it's strange that I listened to this documentary, or not documentary. I listened to, it was like on the confessionals, I think, but this guy comes on and he talks about schizophrenia and how he does this in-depth research, and he ends up going to like a prison, I think, and like talking with people who have schizophrenia and like learning about like the reality of what it really is, and like that what we think it is, it really isn't. And so I'm like thinking back on it, and I'm like, my brother, yes, he was autistic, and my mom knew he was different from day one. Like the day my mom brought him home, she's like, babies don't cry like this. This is not normal. Like he's different. Something is different with your brother. And so we always knew that. He wasn't diagnosed autistic until he was 8. But what I find really funny is that whenever he was diagnosed schizophrenic, it was after my mom moved into that house. So I kind of like see not trying to say that it was the house that caused these things, but it was severe trauma living in that house with my brother. And like, I remember my mom saying, well, some people are born schizophrenic and then some people develop it later on in life. And I'm like, okay, well, like I get that, but like it was after he moved into that house and was living at that house that's when all these things started happening, where he started hearing voices and he started not being able to control his anger. And he always kind of had those issues, but like it seemed like once we lived there, like, I mean, I could tell you stories that are absolutely crazy. Like that's why he wants us to do a podcast, because he wants to talk about like awareness for people. Because I literally was telling him, like, you can do this. Like you need to tell those voices that they are liars, that do not listen to them. Everyone has voices, whether they want to admit it or not. Good thoughts, bad thoughts, and I think some of those are not always ours, and I think some are interjected that are trying to bring us down. I say bad things about myself, but I'm going to be 100% honest with your audience. Since I've been like trying to like read the Bible and like just really trying to be more spiritual and like caring about other people and like their feelings, and hoping they care about my feelings as well, has helped me not have so many negative thoughts about myself. And it's like, I don't know if it was me saying those things or if it was something else trying to just like bring me down and not be the best version of myself that I could be. But I just told him, like, look, you can do this. Because he's on so many medications, like it's insane. Like at one point he was taking like 20 plus meds every single day, just like putting in his body, and they weren't helping. They weren't making the voices go away. It was sometimes making it worse. I mean, he's been in and out of hospitals. And I just think it's kind of like crazy that, that's when his schizophrenia developed. And I've also experienced things in that house that I feel like are what my theory is. My mom told me that the girl who used to live there came back randomly, like after my mom had lived there forever, and was like, that willow tree in your front yard is like super special. And like, she's the one that told my mom that her mom died in that room. And like, she tried to come in the house, and my mom was like, this is weird, whatever. And like, I don't think she let her in the house. I'm pretty sure she didn't, but she was just like, oh, and the girl kept saying, I know your daughter. I went to school with her. And my mom's telling me this girl's name. I'm like, I have no idea who that girl is. Like, maybe she knew who I was, but I don't remember her. But when we were cleaning the basement before, like right when my mom moved in and we were cleaning the floors, because like I said, all like the dogs and stuff, we could tell where there was different sectioned off parts of the basement, because the basement is the size of the house, so it's huge.
Yeah.
But we could see different paint colors for different kids' rooms, so we could see where it was like sectioned off. So it looked like there was like a really long hallway and a bunch of different rooms. And to me, like, for all I know, those kids could have been playing with a Ouija board and could have opened something in my mom's basement that they didn't know how to close. You know, it could have been numerous things. It could be somebody who's buried on the land from God knows how long ago. I mean, we got weird stuff out here. There's a property in Grain Valley where my mom lives, where this guy, he owned like, oh my gosh, 75% of Grain Valley at one point, because he was building all the subdivisions out there, and he had this huge mansion, like ginormous mansion, richest man in town already, goes to build an outdoor pool, finds a woolly mammoth skeleton where he's going to dig up the pool. And that's kind of a whole weird thing, which I don't know what happened with the woolly mammoth skeleton. And then he tried to burn down his house and like get insurance money, but now the city owns the mansion and he has nothing to do with it. Yeah, of course they do.
Of course.
So Lord only knows what's on that property. Maybe the city of Grain Valley does, but we don't.
The government always comes in
Isn't that crazy?
in those stories.
Like,
That's
I don't
so
know
weird.
I don't know if they told him like, hey, we're gonna take this property from you. You need to pretend to burn this motherfucker down, and then we're gonna swoop in and we're gonna take it over. Okay, just do whatever. We'll give you the insurance money, and then you need to skedaddle,
And then you
because
can
we got
fuck
shit
right
underneath
off.
that.
Yeah.
Like, he built on that like, out of all the places he could have built a house in Grain Valley, he picked that place, and out of all the places he wanted to build a pool, he found it right there. He dug it right up right there. Like, I just think that's crazy. And like, nothing's ever really been said any further. And who knows what they've been excavating out there for all these years now. But there's stuff out here. It's a very archaeological sensitive area for sure, with like Native Americans. But like, now I know there's like woolly mammoth stuff out here, so that's really cool. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the government has a history of possessing properties somehow, some way. There's always some like, oh, this guy or these people found something. I mean, you could take it back to Native Americans. I mean, the Osage tribe. They took this piece of land in Oklahoma, and the government's like, we don't want that fucking land. And then fucking they struck oil, and they're like, hey,
Oh yeah, about that
give
land.
me some of that land.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna set up trusts and tell you if you are fit to own your own money or not. You know, like, that was fucked up. Like, I don't know. That was that. There's a whole thing with that, but that whole situation's fucked up. But it's always something with the government that's taken shit when people find shit, and it's fucking starting to really annoy me. But I will go back to your brother's situation. When people are sexually assaulted or molested, regardless of it being physical or spiritually, it can fuck you up. And like you said that he had like anger outbursts, I think is what you said, or anger issues.
Yeah,
People. Yeah, people that have that kind of trauma, um, their fuse is a lot smaller. I didn't know what was going on with my sister when we were growing up, and her fuse was like that, fucking so quick. And I mean, now that I know, like, it makes sense.
right.
I mean, hers was a real person. Not saying that, that diminishes what your brother went through, but I'm sure it was still confusing and still just as traumatic as something real. Whether it was, paranormal, or like, even if it's in your head, like, that's still paranormal to me in my mind.
I'm just glad that you
And
felt safe to like tell me
yeah,
that, or
to
that
tell
I,
you.
because
Yeah.
like, I was also like your sister, abused by like someone who should have been there for me, and
Yeah.
that's really hard. So for me, I was glad that he came to me, because for one, I was probably the most understanding person that he could have like told that to.
Mm.
And, he felt like if I tell anybody else, he's like, you know what they're going to do to me, Alex? They're going to take me to Two Rivers. They're going to take me to the psychiatric hospital. And he's like, and that's not what I want. But he's like, but I need to tell somebody that I went through something extremely traumatic. And, and I can't even get anyone to believe that I actually lived in the basement. And he's like, and you remember that. And it's like, I try to explain to him too, I think sometimes when people do go through traumatic things, they do block out a lot of things. So, maybe my mom just did because it was really, really hard. Like there was points where my brother was so erratic that like she had to lock herself in like three different, inside three different rooms. And then not having her cell phone and thinking, do I have to jump out the window and break both my ankles? Like it got really bad. Like there was another point where, and that's what he kind of wants to talk about the most is like, there's one incident where we were at the house and it was Thanksgiving and he didn't want to leave and he was really upset that he had to leave. And his and which I think is crazy because it always seems to be at the house that these problems always like really like go crazy. When you're not at the house, it seems like I don't know how to explain it. It's just so oppressing, like being there. It's hard to explain. And so he comes in and he goes straight for the knife drawer. And I've processed all this, like he wasn't allowed to see my kids for like 4 years because the dad of my kids was like, I don't feel comfortable because what he did was he tried harming all of us and said that that's what he was going to do. I stood there and I said, absolutely not. You will, I'm sorry, but I'm going to unalive you before you unalive anybody in this house because that's not how this is going to happen. And it got really bad to the point where my mom was just with that man that I'm telling you that she's with now. And I literally yelled at him, you need to get in here and help me get this knife out of his hand. And we finally got it out of his hand and I stood in front of that drawer and, he punched me a good 5 times. My brother's like 6'3". Like at that point, he was probably like 300 pounds, huge. And you know me, I'm 5'3". I'm a little girl.
Yeah.
And I feel like all the adrenaline in my body kept me from even feeling any punch that he threw at my face. I was just like, I'm going to stand in front of this drawer, until someone comes to help us. And he just started picking up all the pottery in my mom's kitchen and just shredded everything. Just everything's just in pieces, and he's just throwing it down. And what's crazy is like this girl that I grew up with my whole life, she ends up growing up and being a cop. And, my mom's yelling at me like the cops are here, you can come out of the kitchen because I wasn't leaving until like someone showed up and leaving the room, I guess I should say. And so then when I go to be with the kids, I'm really upset, I'm crying, and this girl walks in that I went to school with. And sometimes when police arrive, like usually the first person that arrives, they leave with the person that is called for, and then the officer who shows up second stays with the family. Well, in this specific incident, my friend was like, she called her off, like her, whoever was in charge, and was like, hey, like I know this family, I've been here many times, can you like please let me stay and let the other officer, and so she like stayed with us. And as she's in there like comforting like me and my kids and stuff, like my brother is just sobbing, like instant regret, instant like holy shit, what did I just fucking do? Like that could have went like so bad. And he's just like screaming like, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, like I don't know what I was doing, just like so distraught. And that was really, really, really hard because like I said, I had to tell that my kids' dad, and it took a long time. My brother finally found a medication. He was like medication resistant for a very long time. Like nothing worked. Like I said, he was just basically poisoning himself with pills because there's nothing was working. And so now I think he takes a pill that it was like in the 50s or 60s maybe that this was like made. And like whenever you have a doctor who's prescribing it to you, they have to be like in communication with the state with who they're distributing this drug to, because it's like a rare type of thing that they that they prescribe to people. It's like for I think what extreme cases almost kind of thing. But it's the only thing that's like helped my brother. But he still says like he has really bad voices. I've been going to church and like taking Xavier to youth group, and he went, and his roommate also hears voices, and Xavier said my brother said he doesn't like going because his roommate said that like the voices get way worse when they're at church. And so I asked my brother, I said, well, what about you? And he said, oh yeah, they're like 10 times worse when we're there. They're like screaming at me. And he's like, but when I'm at the house, like they're mild, they're not like as bad. He's like, but he's like, I've tried to go. And he's like, because we went to I go to this food pantry and they do community meals. It's like the coolest thing, but they just invite anybody who wants to come, and they provide dinner for everybody, like Chick-fil-A or whatever it is. And it was just like crazy. The one time that I went and the one time that my brother went, we didn't know each other was going. And then there's like this room full of like 100 people, and they're like, we're going to find you a seat. And I'm like, okay. So they're walking us through all these people, and they go to set us down. And the table right next to us, I just hear someone go, Alex? And I was like, wait, what? And I turn around and I was like, what? And then the lady's like, oh, do you know him? And I was like, that's my brother. And she's like, oh, well, you want to sit here? And I was like, well, absolutely. And so we had a good time. And my brother was like, I'm really interested in going to church, and you've been going and stuff, and I really want to start going. And so, like I said, I talked to him later about it, and I was like, how was it when we were at the dinner? And he was like, yeah, the voices were really bad at the dinner. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I was like, well, we can, always try. I want to take him one Sunday. I want to try to take him, like, just maybe me and him, and if he needs to leave, then it's like not a big deal, but I just want to try to help him and see, and then I thought about, oh my gosh, what if my brother gets baptized and like I help my brother with like his spiritual journey and like help him with like, because he feels so alone. Like he lives at a place where it's 24-hour staff. I think he's earned now like some alone time, but he's in his mid-20s. He's never driven. He's had jobs, he's worked, and he's enjoyed that, but it's not something that he has to have. He's enjoyed doing it to like earn extra money so he can buy things. So he's had a really, really crazy journey, and it's been hard being a sibling watching it. Like people think about the person, but they forget about the family sometimes too, and like it can be really traumatic for family members, especially like I was a victim of SA by my father. So like I already had enough trauma, and then you add like having a brother who's diagnosed schizophrenic, and you just have a lot of like trauma, like just a lot of trauma. So I do spend a lot of time alone by myself, and I think we were talking about this before the podcast started, but just like I love the community that I found with every one of you. Like I love talking with you. I love randomly messaging you sometimes like weird shit, and I'm just like, oh my god, Kevin, I love that. But it's like I have a community of people that like I know support me and like things that I enjoy. Because I think a lot of people don't get me or understand how I view things or how open-minded I am or how I can see other people's perspectives and not put them down about it. Like, I don't agree with you, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you you're a dumbass or, it's just like, I can't, that's all I've been talking about today. It's like positivity, like just like being good on that and like thinking about other people's feelings. Like we always just like what me and what I want. And that's like great, but we have to like, you got to really think about other people. And I'm working on that too. Like I'm not perfect. I fuck up every single day. Like every day of my life I fuck up, and then I think, okay, well, what could I have done differently, or how can I make the situation better and not keep like going in like a spiral of negativity, because I can do that so quick. Like anybody can, I think, but it's just like so much harder to like keep being positive, I think. So much easier to be negative, trust me.
Yeah. I mean, we're not made to be perfect. Our imperfections is what makes us perfect. I guess that kind of like is a backhanded thing to say, because I just said we're not meant to be perfect, and then I said we are perfect at the
We're
same time.
perfectly imperfect, okay?
Yes. And the best way forward, I've been saying it this whole time, is love. I think the whole thing is for the human experience is to feel and to give love. Like we're meant to feel love and we're meant to give love. Um, like in this life is nothing but lessons. And I would say that the voices for your brother only get louder because they're trying to keep him from God. Um, so they get louder when he goes, which, everybody that's gone through these kinds of things, they say once they start turning to God and they start turning to scripture and shit, things start fucking with them. My son just started getting into, religion and God. He started believing in God. He started wearing a cross around his neck on his necklace. And all of a sudden, he's never seen anything paranormal, anything like that, until he started wearing that cross around his neck. And he saw a figure in the house, and then a stuffed animal was randomly sitting on the center of his bed, and I was just like, I told him too. I was like, sometimes when you start to go down the right path, whether it be religion or just the right path that is set for you, the adversary is always going to be there to try and deter you, try to tempt you away from the path that you're supposed to be on. So there's, maybe I would suggest yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't know. It's just my line of thinking. If you are able to get your brother to go again, maybe just like hold his hand the whole time you're there and stuff like that. I don't know. As like when, because I have voices in my head. They're my own voices. They're not different voices or anything like that. It's me constantly talking to myself
Yep.
negatively, mostly.
Yeah, same.
But when I'm with somebody that I know cares about me and their hand is on me, whether it's my shoulder, whether they're holding my hand, they have their hand on my lap or their arm around me, they're touching me out of love. It's almost like the everything just shuts the fuck up. And it doesn't matter who it is or what relationship it is. It could be my kid, like
Right.
my kid, like especially when they sit next to me and they just lean their head on me. Mainly my daughter. My son and I has always had this, connection. He's still like literally walking in he's 15, walking in Walmart, and I'll hold my hand out to him for him to hold my hand, and he will grab it right in front of everybody. He does not give a fuck. He will hold my hand wherever the fuck we are. My daughter will
I'm so
not. So
jealous. I still have that
yeah,
with Timothy because he's 4, but
yeah. Yeah, my daughter doesn't. I'll sit there and I will walk for 5 minutes holding my hand out to her, and she'll just be like this the whole time, like for 5 whole fucking minutes. So when I do get like something like that, where we're watching a movie or something, and her head just kind of comes over and leans onto my shoulder, it's nice. But yeah, positivity, love, I think that's the best thing, and that's what I try to be for everybody that I meet, um, especially lately, especially doing this spiritual journey where, after my ex, where I just felt like I was not myself. Like she turned me into somebody that, I wasn't, and I didn't like it. And I'm not saying that it's all her fault. I mean, I'm to blame, and I'm sure, like I've said 100 fucking times now, I'm sure she didn't do it on purpose. But it's just the way it went. And I think she may have been my canon event where I was supposed to have this experience with her so that I could be who I am now, you know? Um, and I think along with that and the things that I've experienced in my life have brought me to just like it came to a head right then and there, experiencing all the things that I did with her. Um, And yeah, I mean, I think just love, we're not, nobody's gonna be perfect. It's no reason to pretend to be. But um, this will be the first time. This will be the first time I say this on the podcast. But uh, so I don't even know if I want to say it. So I was SA'd when I was a kid too. I was like 5, 6.
Same for me. I think I was a little bit younger. And the fact that
Yeah,
it was like by my own father and that a church that his mother was a part of was probably the reason why. Um, and then I never got proper help for it. I didn't even know about it until like older because
yeah,
people don't want to talk about it. And that's
yeah,
really sad because I did a lot of things as a child and as a teenager that I didn't understand because I didn't know what happened to me. And if I think someone would have told me or got me the proper help, then my life could have been extremely different. Not that I would want to be anybody different today, but I was in relationships with people for no reason, for just running and not even understanding what love was because I didn't really know what that was because the one person that was probably supposed to show me that showed me the complete opposite and like severe stuff, like severe. Like people, I know all this like Epstein stuff's coming out, but like this has been going on and we're dealing with breaking generational trauma and like talking about it and people don't want to talk about it. It's disgusting. Like my sisters didn't even know. I had to tell my one of my older sisters just about I don't know, about a month ago. And then I felt really bad, but she asked me because she wanted to know. She always thought, and then she just said, you know, we always thought, but like we never could prove it. And dad always said, I wouldn't do that. And I said, I have stacks and stacks of papers that tell otherwise and memories that tell me otherwise. So that was really hard for me to tell her that. And I think it really broke her heart because she blamed herself a lot. They were older. And like one time he kicked us out of the house. He held a GUN to his head and basically told us all that it was my middle sister's fault. It was all her fault, and that he didn't care about us, and that he literally kicked us out at midnight, like on the street. It was in a small town, but still, he kicked us out of the house, and we had to have someone come pick us up. But that was like extremely traumatic. So like, they went through a lot of messed up stuff with that, and like I said, my grandpa was in the mafia, and he did a really lot of bad stuff with that. But like that was one thing. Like my mom got me away, but she never talked about it. She told me it was too traumatic for her to talk about. But it's like, but that happened to me. Like, what about me? Like, what about
hmm
how traumatic it was for me and growing up and realizing that like I was chasing every wrong guy and thinking that that's how I needed to show my love to somebody because that's how I was shown, No one ever showed me like a steady, good relationship with people, I had a lot of like stepdads, mom's boyfriends, stuff like that. So that was like really like it was really hard to tell my sister, but I was glad that I was like in a mental state that like I had processed everything that I could actually like share that with her. Like say it was 10 years ago, I probably would have been an absolute mess. I mean, I was angry. I was so angry when I found out because I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, and this is really hard for me to say this too, but like my mom didn't tell me. So therefore, when I was 18 and I went out on my own, I went and found that person and I spent time with that person. Wasn't for very long, but it's like if I would have known about that, do you think I would have ever went to fucking go see that person or have them touch me or call me sis? Like crazy. Like so I have a lot of like anger and resentment for that because it's like you could have said something. Like you could have told me. Like that's really hard to talk about, but it's even harder to like know that I did that and I could have not done that. yes, it's a part of my experience and it's a part of my testimony, but it's like I was so angry for like the longest time, and it really, like, I have a relationship with my mom, but it's not great because I still am upset, and I'm gonna forgive her, but that's like I said, it's something people don't want to talk about, and it affects, it affects people. It affects my relationship with my kids and my kids' parents, and or their dads. um like that's why I've been like, I just work on myself like as much as I possibly can, like just with, like I said, controlling emotions, being there for my kids, and like talking with them about serious stuff like this. Because if you don't talk to your kids about this, not saying it could happen to them, but it's just making them aware that not everybody that cares about you has the best intentions for you, I guess, in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's not your fault, you know, that you went through that. So, you know, you're making me cry.
I'm sorry.
Um, and don't be sorry.
I'm glad that you were able to share, like that you feel comfortable sharing that with me, and I know that it's going to be shared with other people, but like we're not the only
Uh,
people that this has had happen to, and like I said, because people don't like talking about it, it's like we can't heal properly. Like me telling my sister, like that helped me heal a lot. Like,
mm,
like it helped me. Like I feel bad if it hurt my sister because like she has to like relive, like, you know, she probably feels guilty if she ever like, there's things that I did as a kid that they used to make fun of me for. And when I told her, like, hey, I went and did hypnotherapy, and like the lady told me, like, the reason why I did that was to repel people away from me because my brain as a baby realized what people didn't like and what people did like. And so I made a protection for myself to keep people away from me. And my sister, everybody used to make fun of me like all the time about this thing that I used to do when I was a baby. And they used to call me the duct tape kid. It was like this whole thing. And when I told her, like, hey, it was because I was essayed, like that's why I did that. And like you guys made fun of me my whole life, and like you didn't know, and like it's okay, and like I forgive you, but like don't like beat yourself up about it, but like, I just want you to know like that's why. And it really like hurt me that you guys did that for so long, and like you didn't know, but you didn't know, so
mm,
um talking about it is like I think it's important for us just to like
mm,
heal, because like it's enough that you have to like hold that burden like on your heart and like your soul, and like my whole thing is like ascending and like trying to forgive people. Like I didn't think I, my brother's like, or not my brother, my son's like, I don't forgive so and so, or I don't forgive this person or that person for this reason. And it's like, forgiveness, like that is really hard. That is like extremely hard. And I've seen people who've had children murdered and they've forgiven the person that, did that to their kid. And I have to like think about that. Like I need to be more forgive. It's really hard to, though, when you're hurt by that person. But
mm,
that's a part of our healing, I think. And I don't want to take this anger and like this trauma that like happened to me in this lifetime. I don't want to take that anywhere else in another life. So like my goal is to like help people, like I said, heal with trauma. Like I said, most people don't know what I've been through, and so I'm more relatable, I feel like, than they think sometimes, especially with like that subject. um and I'm glad that I've been trying to process it more myself, I guess, so that I can help other people.
mm. Yeah.
It's been a
Yeah.
long journey, though. Like it's been like I said, I found this paperwork. Like my mom saved everything, but she didn't tell me. And this
Right.
is really crazy. I know we're like getting close to like an hour and a half, but I'll tell you this real quick. I had this dream. My mom had this best friend her whole life. They were both pregnant at the same time. And her son, Sean, and I grew up. And when we were juniors in high school, I think our junior summer, his mom had surgery. She had this like fibromyalgia where like her whole body hurt all the time, and she had this surgery. And when she had the surgery and she went down to the lake, she had like a blood clot go to her lung, and she passed away when we were down there. And that was super traumatic, but it was my mom's best friend like her whole life. um And so, like I said, me and Sean, we grew up together, and oh my gosh, I forgot where I was going with that story. Dang it. What were we just talking about? I did this earlier when we were right before we recorded.
Uh, um,
Hold on. It was
forgiveness.
the dream. Yeah, the dream. Okay.
Dream. Yep.
So she passed away, and like a couple years later, I had this dream, and it felt like the most realistic dream I'd ever had. I walk in this house, and there's all these people. There's like a lady who's like got like half of a body, and she's like laying on the floor watching TV. There's like a guy in the kitchen. Like, I'm walking through this whole house, and I'm finding all these rooms, and then I find this room in the back, and I find Melissa, and I'm like, oh my God, and I'm so excited to see her. I'm like so ecstatic. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're here. Like, it's you, we're talking. It was daylight when I went in the house. And then I remember she just kept saying, but you need to look at these papers, Alex. You need to look at these papers. And I was like, I don't care about the papers. I care about you. Like, I want to see you. It was just so real. And she just kept saying, but the papers, the papers are really important, Alex. They're really going to help you. And you need to look at the papers. And I was like, okay, but whatever. And so I go out of the house, and it's the sun's setting, and I get in the car, and I'm driving away in the sunset, and I wake up, and I just remember that having that dream, but not really thinking anything of it, and just thinking, I wonder what those papers were that she was talking about. Well, like, I don't know how much longer after that, I had remembered that my mom had given me this bag when I moved out one of the times, and she said, this is for you. This is all the things that like you need, I want you to have this for you. And I was like, okay, but I was moving. I didn't care about it. I threw it away in like a thing, and forgot all about it. Well, I found it. And when I found it, I didn't know what it was. And so there's all this paperwork, like essay, abuse thing through the government, like all this stuff, because they tried to get him, but they couldn't prove it because I was like 4. So like there was no way that they could prove that this happened. So it just basically got swept under the rug, and nothing ever happened. So there's all that paperwork, but then I'm flipping through, and my mom documented like everything. Every time that his parents came over and yelled and screamed at us and tried to kidnap me, and like all kinds of crazy things. And I'm reading it, and I'm reading this out loud, and it tells the part where I tell my granny about what happened to me. And my ex-husband at the time is sitting in the living room, and he's like, did you just read what I think you just read? And he's like, what are you reading? And I was like, I'm reading about myself. And he was like, what? And I'm like, dude, this whole thing is just like nothing but like everything bad that happened to me. And he was like, you're kidding. And I'm like, no. And then like a while later, I'm thinking, oh my God, Melissa was telling me like, hey, you need to get in that bag, and you need to read these papers. Like, you need this. Like, no one's going to tell you. You're going to have to figure it out for yourself, and you're going to have to heal yourself. Like, that's basically how I took that dream, like as a message. And so that was crazy. I'm glad that she did that. Like, my sister was like, wow, you're really lucky that your mom saved all that stuff for you. Like, my mom didn't save any of that stuff for me. And I'm like, well, I really don't know how lucky I really am that I get to read through all the bad things that happened to me as like a child. And I'm looking at myself, and I'm like, this same body went through all this stuff that's on these pieces of paper. And it's just like, it was just horrible, like nasty voicemails. Like, I never listened to the tape. My mom had like, how they used to have like a cassette tape that you would have for voicemail recording back in the 90s. But like there was stuff like that, like a whole date book of like every single time they never showed up for me. Like, it was crazy. And it was really like, I don't know how other people find out, or maybe they just remember, like, I had memories, but I never had proof that that's what I went through. And like I said, no one told me what I went through. So then I therefore had to find out for myself. And unfortunately, it was after I went to go and visit that person, because, I'm like, how bad could this person really be? If no one can tell me what they did, then how bad really could they be? And that's exactly what I thought. And I hope that maybe somebody out there, this helps somebody, talk to somebody about what they're going through so that they can get help, so they can stop whatever's happening to them. Because if people don't talk and find a safe person that believes you, because I know a lot of people don't, and that's really hard to find, but just try to find someone that you can safely speak with, because, healing is possible. It's not easy every day. And sometimes I'm angry about it. Some days I'm not, but I just like we said, just like love and positivity, and just so I'm always kind to people because I don't know what they're going through, ever. You never know at all. And like I always just try to smile at people, say hello, just that could really help somebody and you more than you think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I say it all the time too. I wasn't I didn't have role models for how to deal with my emotions either. So I grew up pretty angry like all the time. I mean, that's the one emotion that I was shown the most as a child.
Same.
Was anger and manipulation. My mom, anyways. Um, there's a there's a lot to unpack. Then the best thing I think this generation right now, 90s kids, 80s kids, I think we've done the most, as in um, healing ourselves so that our children don't have to heal from us. You know, it, and I wanted to say this too. It's the people that I find that in my life so far that I've found the greatest connections with, um, is people who've been through stuff like you. You know, my my first ever love, my first girlfriend in high school, she went through a lot of bullshit, and she's telling me all this shit. And then my ex who fucked me up fucking went through a lot of shit as a child. Um, and it's crazy. It's so crazy. There's so many women. There's so many people regardless of gender. I mean, but it's like so many women I've met in my life have, whether it's their dad or an uncle or something like that, fucking that has done shit like this, and I'm just like, why? Like, what are we doing to our families? Like, what the fuck is happening? What is wrong? There's something wrong. I don't know. There's a lot. And I say it all the time. I'm here. I love talking about mental health because I like trying to help people talk through their griefs, their issues with themselves, and stuff like that, because it's important that you continue existing. I think that out of everything that God created, he decided that the world needed one of you, and boom, you're here, you exist. I'm glad you exist. And
Glad
if
you
if
exist too.
yeah, thank you. So just like finding this community that you were talking about earlier, just with us, Instagram, like you, Drew's fucking phenomenal kid. I say kid, but he's older than me. I love Drew. Drew's awesome. And there's so many other people that I could go on for like I could literally sit here and do a whole podcast for an hour, just telling you the names of people that I've come to respect, just doing this podcast, and who also have podcasts, that are in this community. And I want people that if they are going through a distressful time um, to reach out to me. I say it a lot. Drew has been one of them. Drew himself. He's gone through some things not too long ago where he needed somebody to talk to, and he reached out to me. And I tried to be there for him as much as I could. And he seems to be back on his path shortly after, so fucking love that shit.
That's awesome. I'm
And I
so
think
happy to
that,
hear that.
yeah, and I like you said, I think talking it out with, people is, the best way. And I'll say it again, I think the best way forward is being positive, um, and being loving. Positivity and loving. Although sometimes when people are positive and they're telling me things positive about myself, I either cry or get really quiet and feel awkward, you know?
That's why I try to
I
give
was
you minimal compliments because I know that you already don't want to be involved in that.
uh, I mean, I like them. I really do. And I'm not saying that I don't. I do. It is nice to hear. It's just sometimes it breaks my heart because I'm not used to it. And it's,
It is different, I will say that. I know the same feeling because I'm so used to like all these years of like beating myself up, like you're fat, you're ugly, you're not good enough, like nobody's gonna want to be with you, like just stupid things, you know? And then one day my son was just like, but you're not those things, you know that, right? Like you're not. You're beautiful and I love you and you need to stop saying that about yourself. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. And it was just like taking my son to be like, I this is how I see you. Like you may not see yourself that way. It's almost like we're butterflies. Like you're definitely a butterfly too. Like we just go about life just flying around, but everybody else can see our colors, but like we can't. So it can be hard to take compliments when we can't see things the way other people see them. But yeah, I'm very blessed that I have you and like that I can message you sometimes and just, you know, be like, hey, this or that, or, you know, like, how are you doing? Just to like check in with you. Cause like, you know, even though people come to you, I feel like it's like my duty as being a part of your life to like check on you and like, you know, how you're doing, how your kids are, you know, cause I can talk about me all day and all the crazy shit that's been going on in my life. And that's like getting that out sometime. Like that's why I was glad you asked before because I'm like, okay, now I can relax. Like I got all the bullshit out of the way, and now I can just talk about weird shit. So it's good to have that. I very much appreciate our relationship and just like getting to know you, like you getting to know me. Us talking about things that other people can be like, wow, I had a very similar experience to that, or I saw a UFO too like that, or I saw something come out of the moon, or you know, I was also abused and it feels good that people can actually like talk about that and not, you know, not shy away from that because those people's voices matter. I feel like so many people are silent with that. And that's so sad because it's disgusting. And like I said, nobody wants to talk about it, but I think it's time that people start talking about it and making these people aware of what's really happening in the world. And it's been going on for a very long time. So like we're not gonna save the world in a night, but I wanna save as many people as we can.
yeah, yeah. I mean, as long as there's, you know, people like Diddy out there,
Exactly. Epstein, you know,
Epstein,
all those things are
Weinstein,
just
R. Kelly.
like so many people probably are going to listen to this and be like, wow, like I can't talk to anybody about this, but I'm glad I got to listen to two people who can, like, who are at a point in their life that they're healed to a point where they can be like, okay, you know, this happened to me and I can talk about it. It's not easy talking about it. I didn't think I was going to get upset, but you know, I've wanted to say that for a long time and just like get it out because like I love
Yeah,
my mom and I'll always love my mom. But even your own family or people you're super close with cannot make the best decisions for you. And it has serious consequences. And it's just like, you know, I do have to get over that. I do have to forgive her so that I can move on for myself, you know. It's not about her and for, you know, it's for me and my healing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I will say, my mom and I don't have much of a relationship, and it's not because I don't want it. It's just because I don't put the effort in anymore.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and after everything that she did, I will say, you know, she wasn't like a terror. She wasn't 100% terrible. She only beat me a couple times, but no, you know, she did try. She wasn't. She was. You know, my dad left. He was out of the picture, and then in the picture, and like I don't know, he chose kind of like he was a every other weekend dad, and that was the only time we saw him. So we saw him for 2 days, every other week. And when we weren't with him, we didn't hear from him. Um, And so I get how stressful that can be on how that could have been stressful on my mother. There was, she also had four of us. So I mean, I'm sure you can relate how stressful that is. There's four of us. But I definitely felt like she took a lot out on me because I look like my dad. Um, so I kind of like got the brunt of it when my older brother was the firstborn, and he wasn't my dad's son. So he was favored by my grandparents because my grandparents kind of like helped raise him too, so they felt like he was their kid. It's like and they don't mean to. It's just psychologically there.
Yeah.
Like this was explained to me through therapy, Like they are not like they didn't treat him better on purpose. They
Right.
just had a closer connection to him because uh um they helped kind of raise him up a little bit. And then my younger brother was the baby, so we had two boys on each side of the four of us that couldn't do anything wrong and got high praises. And then when we were with my dad, my sister, the only girl, so the apple of my dad's eye, and then what do I was the odd man out, so I got my sister didn't get treated very well from my mom, but she got treated really well from my dad, until we were like high schoolish, and then my stepmom kind of like put a stop to how well my sister was treated. But um I fucking forgot where I was going with all this, but um I guess shit. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. I got lost in my storytelling.
I've done it twice now already.
Yeah. I think I was just gonna say, like generational trauma. Just love your kids, hold on to your kids, a little bit tighter. So, but yeah, I'm glad you exist, man. I'm so happy to be able to talk to you. And your son's right. You are beautiful. I think so. A lot of people do.
So
Um,
sweet.
I mean, look at the hair. Look at how thick that hair
That's what
is,
I
and
told you
it's
when I got off work. I was like, I had at least if I do my hair, I could be a little bit more confident. If you would have saw me after I got off work, that's a no go. Like it's a hot mess. It's like a bun and like I just have stuff in it. Like I'm the messiest person that works there. And they're always like, "Are you gonna leave a little here or are you just gonna take it home?" And I'm like, well, I get messy when I'm making art. I don't care. So it's like, let's just do it.
yeah, yeah. I feel you. I feel you, man. I really wish I didn't lose my train of thought because I felt like I had somewhere I was going with that,
You're gonna
but
like edit this and then you're gonna remember what it was as we're editing. You're like, damn it, that's what it was.
oh well, shit happens.
I'm so glad that we
I
got to
just
do this. I know I was like counting down the days and then I thought it was last week and then I got super bummed and I
yeah,
was like, oh my
yeah, I
God, I have to wait a
remember.
whole other week? That's bullshit.
Oh man. Well, it's always good to talk to you, and we'll have to do this again, whether it's on this show where we just talk shit again, or
You can do another
we do story
conspiracy.
time or conspiracy
Yeah.
Tuesday, and I learn you something on something else.
Yeah, we
Which
can do that.
actually, I do want to do an episode on the Osage tribe, so maybe you could
Okay.
um
I
get
live
in on that.
right by Fort Osage. That's the school. That's what it's called. But
Oh, nice.
so I actually there's like a museum out there and stuff, I think. I don't think very much is left, but yeah, I'm finding out there's a lot of like Indian mounds, which I don't know
Yeah.
about my area, but I know for sure in St. Louis, like that they were all demolished and all that stuff. So I know there's a lot of crazy history out here. So yeah, we could do that. Or like you said, the story time. That sounds fun. I don't know if I've watched one of those yet.
Story time is Patreon only.
Okay, that's okay. That makes sense.
But I do put previews out, and I've only done 4. And I'm trying to because it's Patreon. I'm trying to, make it more appealing to the Patreon members, so
Okay.
that they're paying $5 a month. So I at least want to give them one episode a month for story time.
Okay. I have some pretty
and-
cool ones from like abandoned houses that I've been wanting to share that I think might be cool. Like there's one that like where we found like I found a bunch of hidden rooms inside this house, and then after they realized that we were in it, they demolished it immediately. But it's a crazy story. But there's like stuff like that I've like my abandoned exploring stories are pretty cool. I think they would like that, and I haven't shared a lot of those like anywhere else yet, so that would be fun.
Okay. Yeah, so if you don't mind, Alex, letting the good people know where they can find you and your amazing photography.
Thank you so much. It's on Instagram. My name on Instagram is ASHAE_photography. That's the only thing I have. Like I said, I should probably have more. I've like listened to all these podcasts. People are like, you can find me on my website, and I'm like, my gosh, maybe I need to get a website one day. But I love your website, and you featured me on your website, and that was so kind. Oh my gosh, that was so nice. And I was like, oh my god, look, it's me. What is going on? I just love that. I love your website just to begin with, like all the art and stuff like that. I just love it all. It looks great.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. It means a lot. Sometimes when I do things, I'm like, it's probably not going to be received well. Oh well. But it is what it is. But when I get compliments, it's on like Brad from Awakened Podcast, the Awakened Podcast. He's like, man, I'm looking at your website right now. It looks real professional. And I was like, are you sure? Are you looking at my website?
Yeah. And then you're like, oh, by the way, I featured you on there. And I was like, you did what? Then I was like immediately like, where the weird ones are in my Google.
Like you're still up there. You're gonna be up there. I'm just gonna keep it up there.
I love it. No, you're so kind.
But you gotta send me your address so I can send you a T-shirt or something.
I'm actually gonna send you $5 soon because you're gonna send me a coffee cup too. So I've been wanting to do that since we did the conspiracy episode. When Down the Rabbit Hole's like just $5 and you get this coffee cup. I was like, oh yeah.
That's how much that's the Patreon.
Yeah.
$5
and then I can
month.
listen to our episode, so it all works out.
Yeah.
Like when we do the
story time.
The story time one. Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Well, everybody, that is today's show. I apologize for crying, although I didn't get blubbery, so that's cool. But if you like today's episode, please like, follow, share, subscribe, leave a rating and review. If your podcatcher doesn't allow you to leave a review, I welcome reviews over on the website, where the weird ones are podcast.com. That's where you can get the merch. That's where you can get the hot sauce. Also, yes. So, I launched a coffee company called Weird Java. It's actually featured in the merch store as well, so it's right in there with the t-shirts and everything. Right now I got 3 different, I guess, flavors, 3 different roasts, 1 dark, 2 mediums, but they have a whole bunch of different flavors in there. So if you're interested, would love to be your coffee brand that's in your house. So if you like coffee, I hope you check it out, or at least give it a try. So with that being said, I'm so happy that you guys are here and spending the time with us. So you know the drill. Question everything and stay weird. Bingo, bango. Where's the frickin' load thing?
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.
Because in the end, none of us have very long on this earth. Life is fleeting. And if you're ever distressed, cast your eyes to the summer sky, when the stars are strung across the velvety night, and when a shooting star streaks through the blackness, turning night into day. Make a wish.